What's up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I am your co-host today, Jordan. With me, as usual, Ben. What is up, dude? How you doing?
What's up, Jordan?
Excited for the episode today, man. Getting
Yeah,
ready for Thanksgiving here in the next couple of days, and I have no plans for Thanksgiving, which is amazing.
yep. Well, there's something to be said about the staycation, with
Yeah.
busy professionals that travel quite a bit. Staying
Yes.
at home for a holiday, to me, is the best.
It's so refreshing. Like I was just talking to my wife last night, and I'm like, isn't it so cool that like we literally don't have to do anything?
Hmm.
It's going to be so good, right? We've been doing a
Yep.
lot of traveling here this year for fun and for business. So just excited to avoid the travel rush for the Thanksgiving holiday. So,
Yep.
okay, today we got an awesome guest. His name is Austin Moffett. Austin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're just chilling, man. I'm super pumped for today's episode because you and I've been talking. I met Austin at a mastermind with Dr. Eric Roman at his
Mhm.
house. Ben, I believe you've done some of Eric's masterminds in the past, but
Oh, yeah.
that's where I met Austin. And in this mastermind, we did some hot seats and we collaborated on helping each other's out in our business. The other day, we jumped on some calls and we're having awesome conversations on what we're going to talk about today. Austin owns a company called DSO CFO. So, Austin, if you could give us an introduction of who you are, how you got in the dental space, and how you started DSO CFO. Then we'll get into
Yeah,
all the fun stuff.
yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, no, thank you. Well, kind of started, honestly, before I even graduated school. My actually in the early 2000s, really. So it's actually in high school. So my grandfather was an orthodontist. He owned three practices in the Los Angeles area in the early 90s. He did great, very successful, almost too successful, if you will. He made a lot of money, and he chose to make not awesome business decisions with his money. Unfortunately, going bankrupt.
Oh
Um,
boy.
and so he did his stint of bankruptcy, and then he just had a knack for going multi-location again. Honestly, really, but kind of before multi-location was kind
Was
of
the hottest
a
thing.
hot
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, totally. Um, and so he did it again in the late 90s, early 2000s. He got three practices, excuse me, five practices, three in LA and then two in Riverside, if any of you
Hmm.
guys know where that's at in Southern California. And he, lo and behold, went bankrupt once again. And
Oh, geez.
and so he did it twice, kind of just proving that he could make the money, but maybe not just for him personally, maybe not the best business decision maker. Unfortunately, he had a stroke later on, and didn't have the finances to be able to support himself and his wife, my grandmother, right in Los Angeles, had to sell the house that they their kids grew up in, right? So kind of just financially kind of fell apart, honestly. And so that's where uh, my dad was already a financial advisor working with doctors. My
Mm.
brother, Jonathan Moffett of Aligned Advisors, if those of you who know him, but he's a wealth advisor for dentists, only dentists, because this has left such a dent, like a mark in our family, right? This whole
Yeah,
experience.
sure.
And then lo and behold, as he was working with doctors, and he said, "Hey, look, I'm going to help them retire, make really good business decisions. Their golden nugget is their practice, right?" He's like, "Well, I'm not an
Yep.
accountant. My little brother, me of 10 years, you're an accountant." So he kind of swindled me in about 10, 12 years ago into the dental side.
And now
Um,
you're
and,
stuck in dentistry
and
forever.
here we are. It's been awesome. And the ups and downs, and the honestly the maturity of the industry in the last few years has been kind of crazy, to be totally honest. Private equity coming in the last couple of years, right?
Sure.
DSO sprouting up like crazy. So it's been fun, but like a wild experience, to say the least.
Yes. Yeah. Welcome to dental. Yeah, it's an
Yeah, this
interesting
is it. Here
industry.
we are. We're here to
Here we go.
stay.
Yeah. You can't escape ever.
Yeah.
No, with our conversations the past several weeks, was super excited to bring you on the show today to discuss your expertise and how you can better help practices with finances, because it is a big it's a great big issue. And like, just from my perspective, uh when a practice is with like a PPO plan, they are literally writing off what 40 to 50%, Ben, a
Mm-hmm.
year, which over a
Yep.
lifetime for like the average practice is like $18 million in revenue that is just
It's
goes
wild.
uncollected because of the invisible write-offs that's happening. And man, what could they do from a wealth building perspective, and even like a reinvestment strategy over the course of their career, if they understood the finances a little bit better than what they currently are taught. So this is why you're here today. From my own look in the industry and interest in how to help practices. First question for you, Austin. How should a practice owner look at their finances? Like, what KPIs should they be looking at? Give us kind of the weeds of that.
Yeah, totally. No, this is a great question. I would say I would start with first, um, practice owners should be reviewing their financials regularly, at least monthly,
At least
period.
monthly. Yeah.
At least just to know what's going on. And I would say, one of the, and this is probably for smaller practices. I think you get it in like the multi-location. I think you have a little bit of these. I think these individuals know, right, and they're probably already looking at their financials, right, on a regular basis from a
Sure.
multi-location. But stop just looking at your bank balance and wondering if you're okay, right? It's you can certainly do that, but in conjunction of doing that, look at your financials, and then and so then when you're looking at them, this is what I would at least suggest is, identify those goals that you have, that you've set for your team, right? From a financial perspective, the number one, and just starting at the top, right, is revenue, right? So like, what is your monthly revenue goal for your practice, and is that being tracked? Yes or no, right? That's number
Sure.
one, and then number
Well,
two.
and
So go ahead.
I would add to the revenue side. We've interviewed people like Gary Takis, Ben. A lot of the times they will have these revenue goals, but they're not tracking the write-offs. Uh, they're just tracking what's collected after the write-off. So it's like, oh man, there's so much data that you can be looking like, oh, we're writing this amount off, like $400,000 a year on, just because we've signed up for every PPO under the sun. We're writing off 400K a year or whatever it may be. What that's an interesting thing to be tracking that most practices don't track, is the what do you call that, Ben? Like pre-write-off production? I don't know. I don't know the official
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
You know what I'm
you
talking
have
about.
production and collection numbers, but that's the other thing is, the write-offs. Uh, I'm curious to see what Austin has like in his metrics for key performance indicators. Write-offs don't always come from PPOs. They could come from professional courtesies or other things.
Ah, sure, yeah.
But I agree that you have to sort of identify those write-offs in an effort to figure out where you need to plug the holes, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I,
but
I think to that, and sorry, Ben, sorry to interrupt there. We have there's an example, there's a story. We spoke with one of our clients. I want to say it was probably Q1 of this year, and they owned a multi-location on the East Coast, and it was a husband and wife ownership, and the one of the spouse members was giving away like doing write-offs like crazy, and like just had a
Mhm.
huge heart, wanted to just do good, right? Was almost like, I don't, not necessarily homeless, but those are just that they needed the help, right? But
Yeah.
maybe they didn't have the finances to back it up, and he would write off some. I think we calculated in just
Mm.
eight months time, about $600,000, and I'm not joking. Well, that's probably a little too high. It's probably was closer to 400, but it was absurd across all three
Jeez.
locations, all three, mind you. So like combined,
To
right?
combine, okay.
And yeah, and maybe it was a little bit longer than the 10 month span. But it was a lot. It was significant to say the least. And we're like, well, we know why. You're feeling a little bit tight because there's a good portion of your money that's just not going to
There's
the
costs
insurances.
yeah, there's
It's
costs
wild.
associated with serving patients. It's like, man, just to write
mhm.
it off. Now I get there should be you could put a charity aspect of the practice, like hey, we'll for write-offs that we control, we'll do X amount of money each month to write off versus letting it kind of get out of hand. That's interesting. Wow. I
Yeah, it was
mean,
interesting. A unique conversation. I offered to have the conversation with the spouse, and they said, no, I should probably do it.
yeah, that's wild. Great point,
let's
Ben.
let's go back to that question again, Austin. So you mentioned key performance indicator wise, revenue is number one, and
Revenue's
then
number one. Yeah, and that I'll be
yeah.
super honest. That gets tracked, but I don't know the accountability factor, right?
Mm,
Because I think that's a layer kind of that goes above, the financials, but that's kind of why you ultimately review the financials is that if people aren't hitting goal, right, then where's the accountability, right? And if you're below goal, I think a lot of questions that are there some questions that maybe don't get answered or maybe not even understood initially is why didn't we hit goal, right? Is there a reason, yes or no? Right. So, anyways, yeah, sorry. Back to revenue though. It goes back to tracking at the end of the day and holding others accountable. So
sure.
from revenue, immediately down to clinical related expenses. And now we kind of start getting into like the expense factor, right, of the financials.
Hmm.
And so now you have clinical related expenses where and this varies per practice, per location, right? But generally speaking, right, you want to be about 6%, 5 or 6, I'll call it 6% of your revenue in dental supplies, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
if you're pulling $100,000, just easy numbers, $100,000 a month in revenue, you don't want to be spending more than $6,000 a month in dental supplies. For labs, again, this all varies, right? 5%, 4 or 5, but all kind of go on the higher end, 5%. So $5,000, of $100,000 a month revenue. And those are big. Those are actually really big. I'll keep going down, and then I'll actually identify like the areas where I'm like, look, I'll just tell you whether you're having a hard time breaking even or not. If you're overspending in some of these areas,
Mm,
marketing is another one. Again, varies. It's a range between 3 to 5%. I like to kind of hang our clients back to 3%, so 3,000 of 100,000, right? And then the big one is payroll, right? So you don't typically want to exceed 50% of your revenue in payroll, right? And
sure.
you can bring that down, right? What does an associate get paid, hygiene, right? And we have those, but kind of the overall umbrella, if you will, is 50%. Now, if you just take clinical expenses, yeah, dental supplies at 6, labs at 5, there's 11%, right? Throw marketing on there, there's 14%. Throw payroll, another
Adds
50.
up fast. Yeah.
Yeah, you're at 64% out the gate, right? Just in those areas. And you're
What
trying to
about
what?
like
Go ahead.
property or lease payments? Like,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that
So rent, right? It's 6%, right? You don't
6%? Okay.
when it exceeds 6. So I would say we try to get our clients their net operating income. Um, so that's like the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the practice, right? Expenses and revenue. We try to get net operating income to 20%, right? So that's like a 20% profit margin, if you will. So like, things are pretty tight out the gate. And back to what I was initially staying is uh, we have clients that give us an financials to like do analysis if they want to like acquire them or
Sure.
what. I just did one just the other day, and I always say I'm just going to look at first the first things first. I'm going to look at where they're at as a percent of revenue on clinical expenses. If they're over 11%, then okay, let's see where, that's not awesome out the gate. So let's just take a look at payroll. If you're over 50% without even looking at the bottom line, I jokingly tell my clients, look, I'll go to Vegas. I won't even look at the bottom line. I'll go to Vegas and I would put money that these guys are having a hard time cash flowing or breaking even, period, in just those two areas alone. And
Interesting.
so that's where we kind of consult out the gate with a lot of potential clients that we start working with, or maybe we start kind of, should we work with you? Are we a good fit? Yes or no, right? It's those two areas out the gate because just those two is 61%. Just those two KPIs, 61. And if you're trying to squeak a 20% profit margin, you're really operating on 19%. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
between just those two areas. So it can get squirrely, pretty quickly if you're not, if you don't have goals, B, if you're not tracking goals, And then C, if you're not really doing anything about those goals when maybe you're a little bit too high, right? On lab fees, for example, right? So that accountability factor.
Yeah, that's
Got it.
interesting. I would imagine too, like if you're investing into a practice or a second location as a practice owner, it's really easy to look with what you just laid out there. It's like, oh, cool. These are the areas where we can optimize, and
Correct.
we know that this could be a good investment once it's optimized correctly.
Yeah,
That's where
correct.
my brain is going. I'm like, oh, cool. If they were paying 11% in supplies or whatever, and it needs to be at what did you say, 6?
Six, yeah. Yeah, supplies. Yeah.
Cool. We're just over ordering. This practice is over ordering. I know we can fix that easy, right? And you can kind of
Correct.
create a playbook for like, oh, if I were to invest into this practice, okay, this would be my strategy based off of the data. That's where
Yeah.
my
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're absolutely spot on because if you know your model and you know that your model works,
yeah,
you can feel confidently going in and replicating your model,
yes.
right? I mean, going back to and this isn't necessarily a model, but it's just being aware, right? I just a
It's
client I spoke
percentage.
with a
It's
go
a
ahead.
percentage-based budget model.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
that's how I operate
Correct.
my company. I've done it for years. If we go over a certain budget of a certain category, I say that's too much. Cut it.
Yeah, right, right, right. But I think the percentages of revenue it provides, excuse me, it provides like leniency almost in those months that are tough. Like September
Sure.
is really funny. You and I had an email going back and forth a couple weeks ago, and I said, "Oh, September," and you go, "Oh yeah, no, we actually call that September." So
September.
actually,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
September.
September.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I copied that saying to a couple of our clients, but look, that's a tough month for a number of reasons. But that's a good opportunity to track, lab fees, dental supplies,
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? So it's a good opportunity, and it should show exactly kind of where you're at, no matter where you're hitting from a revenue perspective.
Well, yeah, I like the reason why I've operated and love the percentage-based budget model, I guess you can call it. You probably have a better technical word, but I've always liked that because it scales up and down, right? So if
Right.
my revenue is scaling up, I can look at it and it's a model that is super easy to understand and to analyze. If my revenue is going down, I can be like, okay, we need to cut these areas because we're spending too much, right? It's a scalable budget model, which that's why I've loved using something like that for years and years and years. So
Right. Right.
no, that's great. Any other KPIs they need to be tracking or looking at?
I would say those are the big ones. I mean, you can
Okay.
certainly drill in if you want to get granular. You can certainly drill into, what are you doing on, repairs and maintenance, right? You can get into
Sure.
the
Yeah.
individual payroll, employee position, right? But that's probably for another time. But those I would say, if I would bump into, a doctor on the street and we just started chatting, those would be the primary
The
ones. I'd
first
say,
ones.
hey, look,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
this is what you got to focus on. You have to, and it has to be number one, revenue. Are you hitting that goal? Yes or no? Clinical and payroll. I would just those three. If you can marry those three, uh, you have a pretty good recipe for some healthy cash flow.
I would
That's
imagine too,
awesome.
Austin, if we can go a little bit deeper for 2 seconds, revenue is really important, always will be. But then there's quality of revenue. So
Right.
what's the patient acquisition costs, and am I breaking even and getting the quick payback periods on that cost in a certain time frame? That those are things that naturally where my mind goes when it comes to revenue. It's like, cool, revenue is great. Now let's talk about quality of revenue, which I think leads us to this next phase of our conversation. You're gonna show us let's do a practice uh revenue review. You've got a
Yeah.
document that we're gonna look at. So share your screen. Let's get geeky.
Yeah, let's do it. If I can find where to share my screen here. Okay, I got you. All right, yeah, let's get geeky.
I think I enabled
So,
it. So
yeah, you're good. This internet is so wonky here. It's like not showing me. Oh, there it is. Okay, jeez. Okay. You guys see this okay?
yep, practice A, profit and loss, January 2024 to October 2024.
That's it. So this is year to date. This is year to date. Is this just a practice? Is that what this is or no? Or are we live?
We're live. You're good.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Sorry. Um,
We're hot live, baby.
Oh baby, sorry. That's my fault. Um, Yeah, so this is actually a real practice. This is a real practice here.
So real data, we're looking at real data here.
This is real data, real practice. Nothing has been tweaked other than I've only hidden some of these cells just to simplify, just to, for the podcast, right?
Sure.
So again, real numbers here. So what I've done, it's actually pretty healthy practice. Going back to kind of what I was initially saying, dental supplies, goal is 6. These guys are doing 2.5, call it, right? Lab
Mm-hmm.
feeds kind of almost 3, right? Overall, they're at 6%. Really good, like really, really good, right? Um, Cost of good, right here. They're a little bit high on marketing. But that is totally their like that is their
They're,
goal, right? Like they're
sure.
choosing to go high because they are pumping marketing capital into this practice to like grow the practice, right? So like this is intentional. But guess what? They can do that because they came under 6 points or 5 points, if you will, in clinical. So they're able to kind of, hey, we've done well in here, so let's maybe use that extra
To
capital to
reinvest, yeah.
reinvest it into the business, which is brilliant, right? So
Yep.
that's what these guys are doing. Down to payroll, they're at all in. They're at 51, call it 52%.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit
So a little bit
higher,
high.
but
Yep.
yeah, but it's not really that big a concern. They're pretty consistent. They're good everywhere else. Rent, they're at 5.2, so they're a little bit below that. Overall, and again, no numbers tweaked. Net operating income. So again, the meat and potatoes of the practice, just operational related revenue and expenses. They're at 29.5%. Very, very
Yeah,
healthy.
that's great.
Now you throw in your EBITDA, you throw in a couple of add back related expenses, right? They're ending
Mm-hmm.
about 18.8, call it 19%. So
Sure.
very healthy practice.
Yep.
Mind you, they're not pulling in like 3 million,
So they're at
3.54
1.2.
million, right? It's 1.2, right? So,
Is that is that is the 1.2 after PPO write-offs?
this is yeah. So this is
Okay. Yeah.
just cash collected, right?
Okay.
It's like proper cash.
Mm-hmm.
So this is their cash flow year to date, right? Or in again, mind you, January through October, so 10
I'm on
months.
the phone.
Yeah.
Yep, 227. So look, I mean, it's $200,000. Maybe you'd want 500,000, especially if you're doing about 19%, right? But regardless, again, back to kind of the scale and the size of a practice. Um, anyways, so
Austin, is that after the bottom line number? Is that after doctor salaries?
this is after doctor salary. This is
Okay. Great. Great.
all in 19%.
Great.
That includes taxes, right? That includes like any travel, legal fees, right? Donations, things like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're walking away all in. Now, what this doesn't include, I have to just be transparent. And this is where the accounting nerd in me kind of picks up. So forgive me, but this it does not include principal loan payments, right? So
Okay.
if you have a loan, right, the principal belongs on the balance sheet. That's a story
Yep.
for a different day.
Yep.
And this does not include any owner draws. That so if it's owner doctor's like, hey, I got paid, X, but I'm going to take $5,000 and just give it to myself as owner draw. That
Yep.
also does not impact here. But so I have to convey that. So outside of those two areas, yeah, this is proper cash flow, 19% all
Yeah,
in.
there's plenty of cash to do whatever they decide.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
this is interesting. Okay, so $1.2 million practice after PPOs. Do you know how much in write-offs that these guys are doing?
I don't have that data in front of me. I am happy to pull it up. I had to
Tip,
pull that from them, but I do have to say these guys these guys are really good. These are I'm using them as an example for a reason. They're one of
sure.
our more high performing.
I'm sure there's other messes out there that you're trying to solve for.
Yeah, no, but these guys are good. I don't know, to be totally honest. I don't know what that percentage looks like. But
Ben, any insight
I
there
do know
from?
they're on it. Go
I
ahead.
know Ben sees that a lot with practices. At 1.2 collected practice, what is the typical write-offs that what you've seen, Ben?
It depends. It depends on how much of that is insurance related revenue. And forgive
Sure.
me, I
I know,
wasn't
yeah,
able
you
to.
had to
Yeah,
jump off for
I
a little bit. You're good.
no, the screen is way too small on my phone. I
Oh
can't
yeah,
see the
so it's
numbers.
it's a $1.2 million practice. That's on collections. Uh, really great numbers if you look at all the details. But that's kind of where we don't know if they're heavy PPO or a fee for service with or a hybrid type practice. Typically,
Yeah.
Ben, though, when you see like a $1.2 million collected practice and they're with PPOs, what should their top line could have been? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So among the PPO, so every practice is different. Like, so I
Sure.
review some reports of like a $1.2 million practice, 33% of the practice is from insurance, the revenues from insurance. And then another
Hmm.
practice, 95% can come from insurance. So
Sure.
you see, so with a practice with limited in participation with insurance and limited number of patients, you see a significantly smaller write-off compared to a practice that's doing the same revenue but has 90% of their patients on insurance, right?
Yeah.
So with 90% of your patients on insurance, I mean, you're writing off anywhere between 30 to 50% of your revenue, depending on where you're at in the country, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And the same is true for a practice that's 1.2 million and 33% of their patients are insured, where they're still writing off on the
That
insured
cohort.
patients, yeah, between 30 and 50%. So in most states, you would have your write-offs hovering, insurance write-offs hovering between 30 and 40%, right? And that's without having any negotiated fee schedules. So for this particular practice, hard to answer that question without having the
Mm.
specific
Yeah, you
details,
don't have all
but
the data.
Right.
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 Yeah, that's interesting though. Imagine though if this practice was, had 90% participation in PPOs, that could be a 30% more top line increase that goes
Yeah, I'm
most
yeah.
likely straight to the bottom line with a
I've seen prac
negotiation.
Yeah, I've seen practices submit $3 million worth of claims to insurance and they only get paid 1.2 million.
Oh,
You know,
Mm.
interesting. Yeah.
That's wild.
you
Wow.
know. But at the same time, I've seen practices submit 1.8 million and still collect 1.2 million. You know,
After write-offs.
and yeah, and so. But what's in terms of write-offs, the biggest write-off that you'll ever see the biggest write-offs that you should see is coming from being in network, right?
Yeah.
So if you're seeing write-offs that are not associated with insurance, that means you have a financial policy where you're giving discounts willy-nilly to everybody, or not collecting correctly, or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
this seems like a pretty reasonable practice to where, I mean, at 1.2 million, the dynamics that I'm seeing on the screen is that this practice could have a relatively smaller component of insurance. Who knows? I don't know those
Yeah, who
details,
knows?
but yeah,
But just looking at it quickly, yeah, you're
right,
not going to know much. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because I guess the easiest way to optimize revenue here would be renegotiating insurance contracts so that you get more or going out of network, right? And
right,
you influence top line revenue and bottom line revenue by going out of network in most cases. I know there's some nuance to that strategy, but that's probably the easiest way to impact revenue and bottom line. Um, just by renegotiating insurance contracts, because most of the time, Ben, I would imagine these practice owners will sign any PPO contract under the sun without looking at the details of what they're actually doing to their practice. And then years down the road, they're like, "Oh man, we need to fix that."
oh, that happens all the time, even
Yeah.
for our own clients, where they'll get in network with a PPO plan because that PPO sent the documents to them directly, and then they just sign it.
Jeez.
They don't review it or have somebody else review it. And we have to get out of that habit, because I imagine from Austin's perspective, when it comes to reviewing financials, is that we tend to skim through these things fairly quickly as busy professionals, right? But
Right.
Mhm.
the mistake that we make is that we don't really scrutinize the numbers from the perspective of how do we meet goal, right? Or how do we reduce these
Right.
percentages? So I think, going back to your question for me, Jordan, is if I'm looking at this P&L, and if I have the production numbers and they're producing 1.8 million, but they're only
Uh-huh.
collecting 1.2 million, and they participate with every dental plan, in my mind, I'm thinking they have to evaluate their PPO write-offs. They need to look
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
negotiating opportunities. And then the fact that they have zero membership revenue, that's a that,
Yeah.
the,
That's another easy win.
the
Yeah.
next thing I would
Awesome.
look
Totally.
at, yeah, like
Oh,
for the membership plans, if it's zero, I would immediately
Zero.
go and look at the uninsured part of the practice, right? The patients that don't have insurance. It's like, what are we doing
uh-huh.
there?
A
Yeah.
practice this size, I would say, we see this all the time, especially if they're investing into marketing. Um, in a 6 months to a year time, they probably can add about 400 active membership patients with the right marketing engine and the right, to Ben's point, if they got a good base of uninsured patients that they could convert to subscription patients. Add in that column there where it says membership revenue. So we'll do 400 active patients times that by the average rate of $45 per patient. That's $18,000 in MRR. So monthly recurring revenue.
Is that so 18,000 a month?
Yeah, that's a month.
So
So
do
times that by
18,000 times 10, right? 10 months out of the year
yeah,
through
in this case,
October.
since it's 10 months analysis.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
You're doing about $1.80
Yep.
additional revenue. Go ahead.
And out of that cohort of the 400 active membership patients, times that by, let's do. So we did an analysis several weeks ago with one of our top clients here at BoomCloud, and we saw that their membership, on average, their membership patients spent 2 times more than their PPO patients, which is obvious. And so let's add this 1,000 to the. So from a treatment revenue perspective, now obviously not 100% of the membership patients are going to get treatment in a given year, but that cohort, that membership patient cohort can be driving even more treatment revenue.
Right.
In addition to the subscription revenue that we just put down here, is that we put down $180,000 in subscription revenue in 10 months. I would argue that the projected value of that cohort of patients could be anywhere to additional 400K in treatment revenue, right? So if they were to get most of those, if they were to get a good chunk of that patient revenue, of the subscription revenue from new patients coming in, right? They can really grow super fast because the ideal patient profile in a practice is typically a membership patient because you're not dealing with PPO write-offs. They're acquiring them through marketing channels and then those patients are they're financially committing to the practice versus a PPO patient. They're really just financially committed to a limited PPO plan that's not really adding much value both to the practice or the patient. So I would argue if they can hone in their marketing to attract more membership patients, invest their money there, they'll see faster growth than they will with a PPO or even a cash patient. So that's kind of when I look
Right.
at this.
Well, I think this is interesting, right? So here's where my mind goes. So if you did 180,000, excuse me, 180,000, right?
Yep.
So I'm just
In
taking this
subscription revenue.
in just subscription revenue, excuse me, for 10 months, on average, these guys are doing about $100,000 a month,
Yep.
roughly, right? And just mind you, just collections, right? So this is
Yes.
after, right? Um, this 180, that's almost 2 times your monthly revenue, right?
Yes.
So you're giving yourself a 2 month boost in revenue from just going through, getting those monthly memberships in place. I'm just gonna jump down again. Here's where my mind goes to
Does that add
perspective revenue.
14.8% in bottom line?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, close. Oh, yeah. Actually, it was 10. It had 10. Well, let's see here. Depending on what number. 38. So where were we at beforehand? It was I can't remember, but I know the bottom line was 19%, and they're
Yes.
at
Yeah.
29.4%. So
After adding that.
all in after EBITDA, after add backs, right? After you add all that back in, yeah, that's 29%. I'll be super honest. A 29% profit margin all in, we don't see that too often, to
Yeah,
be
sure.
completely transparent. This is a rare bird, if you can find practices that are kind of floating in the high 20s, low 30s,
Yeah, sure.
all in. And so that's wild to me. Can I just ask, because right, this is the area that is not my expertise. How difficult is it, for these practices to be getting these membership revenues? Like, just like, this is a pretty average. I would say this is a fairly, I would say, small to average, size practice, right? Just in
Yeah.
terms of what it's doing in revenue here. Doing 180 in 10 months. How difficult is that for a practice of this size to get?
Yeah.
Can
Well,
I answer that, Jordan?
yeah, go ahead. You managed a membership plan for
Yeah,
multi-locations.
you're the ultimate expert, Jordan. But since I don't earn any revenue from membership plan designs, as a pure student of the game, this is
Yes.
what I'm seeing. And this is so to answer your question, Austin, it is not any more challenging or difficult to get a patient enrolled on your membership plan than it is to acquire any patient, especially
Sure.
like an insured patient. In the market today, the low-hanging fruit is membership plan patients, because there are so many more of those patients compared to people that have insurance, right? But the challenge that we experience in the industry is that people with insurance are the most motivated to go and get their dental work done consistently, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is why we want to get our uninsured patients and even people that have insurance switched over to a membership plan, because it's so much less expensive to a practice long term to have people on a membership plan, because you have more control over the income, right? You have significantly more control over the plan design, which results in the write-off that you're giving to these membership plan patients, or write-off / discount, right? So with that said, as it pertains to effort, resources, and money, in acquiring new membership plan patients, the vast majority of practices, they already have patients that are candidates to be on their membership plan.
Yeah.
But they're viewing the opportunity loss in a wrong way. Like, a lot of practice owners would look at uninsured patients and say, why would I want to start giving these patients discounts when they're happy coming and paying my full office fee? But Jordan will tell you that membership plan patients do what, 3 times more dentistry
Anywhere from 2 to 4.5 is what we've seen.
Yeah.
Times more.
So now you have a motivated patient, right? And so the real answer on how difficult it is to get people on a membership plan, it's not. We all have patients in our practices that could be easily converted to a membership plan. And here's why. Nobody's going to say no to a discount.
Right.
Well, and
Right.
if I literally was talking to Jean, her name's Gina. Gina, what's up? This is one of our top practices that they just started a membership program from scratch this year, and they're adding about 30 membership patients a month, right? In about a little over 12 months, call it 14 months, they'll be at 420. I gave the 180,000 in yearly subscription was off of 400 active patients. And
did you just say 420?
Yeah, I did.
No, I was referring to the number, not the time of day. But now that you brought up the time of day, I'm going to start thinking about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they're signing up 30 patients a month to their membership program, right? And it's as simple as just talking about it. In addition to that, they do have a wonderful marketing engine that's working for them, right? That allows them to have more conversations outside of their existing patient base. That is the trick, right? You got to talk to your existing patients, and you've got to have a marketing function that's working, which, if a practice of this size, and they're spending what, 6% on marketing is what you said, Austin?
Yeah,
That's a really good investment. Now just start talking about, if I were these guys, start talking about the membership plan to those new patients coming in, on how much they can save, right? And yes, it's a win for the patient and for the practice, because they save more, but the patient also says yes more. We looked at the case acceptance rate between these cohorts. PPO patients say yes about 30% of the time. Cash patients say yes 20 to 24-ish% of the time. So cash patients, actually, they're great, but only 24% roughly say yes to treatment. So you're only collecting 100% on the 24% of that base.
Yeah.
And then membership patients say yes 40% of the time. So if you look at those cohorts, you can easily see which one is the winner. And then I would add that we didn't put here is renegotiating those insurance fees is a massive win. Ben, I don't know what you see typically. If I were operating a practice, I would be calling Ben up and saying, hey, bro, I'm writing this much off with these specific PPO plans. I am a $1.2 million collections business. The easiest way to grow my company is yes, to turn on the marketing engine. You always want to do that. But then there's something that I call revenue per patient. How can we optimize revenue per patient? Well, one of the quickest ways is, yes, a membership plan. in addition to that, or the same time as that, you want to look at your PPO contracts and renegotiate or go out of network if possible, if that doesn't scare you, because I know that can be a scary thing for some practices. That is the quickest way to increase your revenue like a light switch.
Oh yeah.
That's light switch revenue is how I look at that, Ben. So when it comes to like negotiating, what do you typically see, Ben, from the revenue conversation of this profit and loss statement? Like when it comes to turning on that negotiating plan, how much revenue can they add just by doing that without adding more patients?
Absolutely. So let's take the typical practice that we work with. 90% of their patient base has some type of insurance plan.
Sure.
And they collect 1.2 million a year. So for a practice like that, they would expect a total revenue increase anywhere between 7 and 13% as a result of properly negotiating your PPO fees, right? But the other part of that is out of network wise, like a practice like this, let's say they're maxed out on their hygiene appointments, right? They're booked out. You can't even get in as a new patient for a hygiene appointment for 4 to 6 months, you know? Being in high demand that way and taking every PPO plan under the sun, one great way to eliminate the write-off altogether is just by going out of network. Jordan said that's easier said than done, and he's right.
Yeah.
But the reality is that there are thousands and thousands of examples of doctors going out of network with insurance plans where they're increasing global revenue well above 30%. And that's after the attrition, right? After the patients that are going to leave.
Sure.
What does it look like after that? It's like, well, we've captured 30%, right? That's a huge move, a huge plus. I mean, even if it's 20% and you lost 20% of your patients, you know, 20% of an increase in global revenue is a huge win, you know, as especially for practices that are so far booked out that they are cannibalizing their opportunities by those patients, you know, they're leaving, they're not coming for their appointments because they're waiting too long, right? So, and maybe this is another question for Austin, and I got to hop off here in a second, guys, but
yeah, you're good.
What I've learned from fractional CFIs is that the numbers always indicate that if you're not accepting new patients for a 4-year period, you will not have that many production opportunities in 5 years, 4 to 5
Correct.
years, because of the work that you've done on the existing patient base has been, for the most part, maxed out. Now we're waiting for them to get unhealthy again. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
great point. Yeah.
That's great.
So it sounds like you agree with that, Austin. I'm not.
I do absolutely agree with that. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, hey, man, you only have so many teeth in your mouth. You know what I mean?
There is a natural limit. Yes. There's a natural limit of revenue production per patient. Absolutely. Oh, this has been awesome. Ben, respecting your time. Austin, tell people, this has been a great episode. Tell people how they can find you if they're wanting to review their numbers and all this fun stuff that we discussed today. Where can they find you? Do you have a website?
I do. Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I used to be more active, but I'm on there weekly. LinkedIn, Austin Moffett, or you can just go out to our DSO CFO LinkedIn page and message us. We have some pretty responsive people there, and then our website, dsocfo.com. A really great way to get a hold of us. But yeah, I mean, look, we're big. We're more than happy to provide free financial analysis for anyone, just so that they kind of know where they stand and where there's areas to improve in their profit margins. And that's something that we do complimentary.
Great. So go book that. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, sorry, Jordan. If I could put another plug in there and just sort of clarify Austin's, we asked him this question before we started recording. Is DSO CFO? It's not, his business is not exclusive to DSOs. He works with all practice types. But what came to mind is that, you know, a DSO type, every DSO has a CFO, right?
Yes.
And they have a very structured way of looking at the numbers, setting goals and things of that nature. So as a solo practitioner, to me, DSO CFO is sort of giving you the advantage as a solo practitioner by having pretty much a CFO that would be a department in a DSO.
Correct.
To help those of us that don't have a CFO, an accounting department, or at least not a structured one, help get organized in a way that is meaningful for growth in a practice. And fractional CFIs, CFOs, to me, they are sort of the key in terms of shaking up the business positively and making some good things happen numbers wise.
Yeah,
Love it.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, and you're absolutely spot on. We try to give the guys who maybe aren't in a position to offer a six-figure salary, excuse me, chief executive salary, to someone. We're I don't a fraction of the cost is probably not even doing it justice. Incredibly
Mm-hmm.
cheaper, and we care about our clients being successful. When they win, we win, right? So it's
Yep.
yeah, so it's good. No, I appreciate that shout out.
Awesome. We'll put the website in the show notes so you guys can easily get access to Austin's website and book a call with him to, I would imagine it's a valuable, very valuable call. So go to his website, check it out. With that said, everybody, we hope you have a rocking day.